Hello and welcome to The Adult Life, where we give you the tools to be a happy and healthy adult. My name is Simi and I'm the adult in charge. This is the third video in the How to Save Money in London series. We started off with food, then we went to eating out, and now we're learning how to save on bills. Bills are our biggest expense, with some of us spending 50% or more towards this. Ouch. Luckily, because there's so many things that make up bills, there are also so many ways to reduce it, and that's what we're going to be looking at in this video. So starting off with staying at home. Here at The Adult Life, we believe that you should stay at home for as long as possible. As long as you have your peace of mind and you're safe, stay at home, pay a contribution, and be able to save towards that mortgage or whatever big savings goal you have planned. If you're not able to live at home, why not try living with relatives, friends, or anybody that will take you in for a reduced cost? Something you can consider is being a lodger. Being a lodger is very similar to being a tenant, but actually as a lodger you pay less because you're living with the landlord. So sometimes a place that you would normally get a bedroom for about £600, you could actually be a lodger and get it for about £400 or even £350, which I think is a really good deal. It's good to note that lodgers have less rights than tenants, so you might want to look up on that before you take it up. But since we're talking about sharing, why not share your subscriptions? So I know that Netflix, Spotify and Amazon have family plans. So Spotify, for instance, has a normal premium plan for £9.99. But if you get their family plan, you can have 6 people on one plan for £15, which is £2.50 per person. That's an amazing savings. So if you did that with all the subscriptions in your life, you'd save a lot of money. And moving on to the habits that you have. Turning off all appliances when you're not using them is a good way to stop them from draining energy when they're on standby. So what you can do is you can do a sweep of your house and turn off anything that's not in use at any one time. Usually this is better for the smaller things like your phone and your laptop charger. For bigger things like microwaves and cookers, you might want to just do that at the end of the day and then turn them back on the next day when you need them. Another way to save money on electricity is your washing machine. Now there are various ways to do this. The first way is to actually wash less. Now I don't do washing unless I've got a full load. Did you know that a washing machine actually washes better when it's got a full load? Who knew? I always make sure that when I'm washing, the load is full, so I won't wash a half a load just because I want to wear a particular thing. While you're washing, you might want to have a check at the settings because the temperature might be a bit high for what you're doing. So usually if I was washing my whites, I'd wash them automatically at 60 degrees, but the job gets done just as well if it's on 50 degrees. And for my non-whites, I'd be using 40 degrees. But I realized that using 30 degrees gets the job done just as well, especially if they're not particularly soiled. Also, if you're able to do a quick wash, that might be an even better way to wash your clothes. So sometimes they have settings for synthetics and cottons. I realized that a quick wash does the job just as well, and it's in 60 minutes rather than 2.5 hours. So I think that's definitely a better way to wash your clothes. If you have a water heater, you might consider turning down the temperature of the water in the heater. So some people's water heaters are set to about 120 degrees. But if you reduce that to about 100 degrees, and trust me, 100 degrees is hot enough, you'd actually save a lot of money on the energy needed to heat it up to that temperature. Funny enough, water heaters are some things that can be the least efficient thing in your house, especially if they're quite old. So you might want to think of using more energy efficient appliances. Now, one thing I would never say is throw all your old appliances away and buy completely new ones. No. What I would say is think of it as more of a marathon than a sprint. Over the course of a year, pick out 6 or 7 things that you would want to replace with more energy efficient things and buy them maybe every month, every 3 months, and that way you get to replace your less energy efficient things with more energy efficient things. And then I would say don't throw them away, maybe give them to charity, give them to people who might need it, or sell them if need be. If you're moving into a new place, whether it's rented or you've got a mortgage, always make sure you take a picture of all the meters in your house, whether that's gas or water, and send them to your provider. That way your provider knows exactly when you moved in and you're not stuck paying for the last tenant's bills. Alright, we've gotten the more casual things out of the way. These are the tips for the people that are serious about money saving and they really want to cut down on their expenses. The first thing I would say you should do is shop around. Compare the market, compare the Meerkat. They're the same. Compare the market and any other comparison website and make sure you're getting the best deal. Now I'd say you should use more than one because one might not have all the providers, so use a minimum of 2 and look at the best deals. While you're on these sites, you might want to consider bundling. So bundling is when one provider provides 2 different services. So in the case of energy, you can bundle your gas and electric for a cheaper deal. You can also bundle your insurance, so you might be able to get house and car insurance from the same provider and they'll give you a discount. As always with these providers, you're usually getting a fixed term contract. So it's usually a year, 18 months or 2 years. And after this, you're sent on to a standard rate. Make sure you never go on a standard rate because it's always a lot more expensive than the deals. Never accept the renewal quotes because they're just as bad as staying on the standard rate. Something I just remembered actually is that most of these providers take 3 weeks to switch from one to the other. So you really want to make sure that you're researching before the deal ends. That way you're not on the standard rate at all between changing suppliers. And what you can do is if you can get a spreadsheet with all your contracts and the renewal dates, or if you prefer, you can get a calendar on your phone, so either Google or iOS, set a calendar, make sure it's synced so that if you change phones, you'll still get the notifications. And that way it will notify you in advance so you can start looking and make sure you find the new deal before the 3-week window. I know changing a provider can be a bit daunting, especially because usually when you're going to a new provider, you have to wait for the person to come and connect or disconnect or wait for a parcel, and then the person will say, actually, I can't come today, can you do tomorrow? We've already taken the day off work, and it's a shambles. So what you can do instead of shopping for a new provider is you can call and say you want to cancel. Well, usually customer service agents have the power to give you a sort of discount just so they don't have to spend more money on advertising to you and bringing you back. So calling them and saying, I found a better deal at so-and-so, can you match it, might actually get you that same deal. When it comes to phones, you might be tempted to get the latest phone on a contract. But what if I told you that it was cheaper to buy a phone outright and get a SIM-only deal? Yes, usually if you buy a phone outright and buy a SIM-only deal, you can get much better benefits but also save £100 to £200. Sometimes it might not be feasible to spend £700 or more at a go on one phone. What you can do is keep your old phone and change your contract to a SIM-only contract. You can negotiate this so you can actually get better benefits for a third of the cost that you were spending for your old contract. I'm sure you know already that when it comes to accommodation, you can always rent a bit further away or move into a place where there's more than one person. Obviously, sometimes that just doesn't work out. You might need your own space for medical reasons, or you might just need a place with good transport. One thing you should be taking advantage of is the single person council tax discount. And what this means is if you're a single person living at home, you get a 25% discount on your council tax. So if you're paying a council tax of £100, you would actually get £25 taken off. And a £25 saving for bills is a lot of money, so it's definitely something you should take advantage of. When it comes to determining who's a single person, there's some caveats. So usually any student isn't considered, and also nobody under 18 is considered because they're not adults. So if you live in a house with all students or you live with children, you may be entitled to a single person discount. That's really something you should check out. When it comes to water, you might be able to save a bit more money by buying a low flow aerator. And what an aerator does is that it puts more air in your water flow so that it feels like there's a lot of water in your hands, but actually half of it is air. That could save half of your water bill if you install it in both your kitchen and your bathrooms. So those are the tips for the people that are trying to be serious about saving money on their bills. Now we're onto the tips for people who are in dire straits. These are people that really need to save money, and they need to save money fast. Sticking with the water theme, we have a tip that's medically backed. Shower every other day. Some scientists say that it's really not good for your body to have a bath every day, that the soap removes your natural bacteria and can cause dry, scaly skin. So if you're really trying to save money on water, you can consider showering every other day and see how that affects your water bill. Obviously, this doesn't apply when you're doing more strenuous activities like going to the gym, or if you're a labourer or work with your hands a lot. If you're sweaty, it's probably a good idea to shower every day. Or maybe you can't quite bring yourself to shower every other day, but how about showering with colder water or cold water? Apparently, this is actually medically backed too. Showering with cold water can actually wake you up, make you feel more invigorated, and help the blood flow throughout your body. This is something I can never do, so I'll leave you to try out this one. But then when you think about it, if you only shower with cold water, then you probably don't need to turn on your water heater at all until it gets to winter times. That could be a really big energy saving. Something else you can do, apparently, is peeing in the shower. Now, it makes sense. If you pee in the shower, you don't have to flush, and a flush actually takes a lot of water. But that's pretty grim, especially if you live with other people. If you live on your own, I could maybe understand it, but I really don't want to be standing in a bath or shower with someone else's wee on it. Ugh. Thinking about accommodation again, obviously it's a big expense, so you might want to cut it down further. I know you've considered sharing a house with people, but have you considered sharing a room? There are actually places where you can share a room with another tenant. Most of the time these are single beds, but sometimes they're double beds. I don't know if I could do this either. I find it hard enough to share a room with my own sister, let alone a random tenant that I don't know from anyone. And finally, we end with a tip that's not so gross and possibly doable. Wear your clothes more than once. Now, there's some clothes that have to be worn once and then washed immediately, but there are others, like jeans, that are actually meant to be worn 5, 6, 7 to 10 times before they're washed. Jeans are actually quite rugged materials and they're meant for multi-wear. I'm sure you've noticed that if you wash your jeans quite often, they get a bit brittle, they shrink, and sometimes they start wearing away in certain places. And that's because they're actually not meant to be washed so often. So what you can do is, unless it's stained, try wearing your jeans 2 or 3 times more than you usually would and see how it goes. You can do this with other clothes too, but I think jeans are definitely the best one to start with. Those are all my tips for saving money on bills in London. Let me know what you think. Do you use them or do you have better ones? Until next time, see ya!